Today's show is brought to you by... How the fuck should I know? Nobody tells me anything.
Down with Joe DeRosa.
Welcome to Down with Joe DeRosa. One topic, one guest, 1 hour. And today we talk about the afterlife. Because everybody asks that big question, what happens when we die? Where and how do we end up? What exactly is the next reality? Is it a higher existence that can only be attained through spiritual transcendence? Or is it just dirt? God, if you're out there, if you exist, please don't let it be dirt. The thought of that not existing, rotting away in the ground, quite frankly, scares the shit out of me. And I've never been a fan of those emotionally detached types that say things like, don't care if death is just blackness. I won't know any better anyway. I'll be dead. You sound dead now. I can't possibly understand how any living person wouldn't find it utterly dreadful that when their physical machine finally kicks out, there's a chance their consciousness will too. Does that mean I believe in heaven? No, but I want to. Heaven seems like the best case scenario to me, hence the name, heaven. Reincarnation doesn't sound too shabby either. I realize that if we have led or do lead several separate lives, we're not really granted the privilege of vividly remembering them, which is sort of like living only one life in the first place. But hey, I'll take that. The comfort of knowing I might have once been a knight of the Crusades, or maybe one day will be a beautiful Broadway ingenue, is enough to keep me going. Hell, I'd even come back as a bird or a possum or a fruit fly, anything other than being forced to cease. It might sound crazy, but when I hear those old ghost stories about souls condemned to walk the earth or forever tortured spirits wailing about in limbo, I exhale a sigh of relief and think with great hope there's a chance for a promising future. I watch ghost hunting shows, YouTube videos of proposed demon possessions, and listen to anybody willing to share a story of a potential supernatural experience, all in the hopes of finding one kernel of proof of an afterlife. I even considered reading that book, Heaven is for Real, which was inspired by the near-death experience of a 4-year-old. And why? Why am I so obsessed with finding an answer? Well, like I said, I'm afraid to die. But perhaps more importantly, confirmation of a further existence might help make sense of why things play out the way they do for us here and now. Why we live, why we die, and why so many of us die young. I actually have a theory on that, why the good die young. Maybe they're too advanced for this primal reality. That's why the truly righteous people are always perplexed and frustrated by the surroundings they're always attempting to change. They're out of step because they're out of place. They deserve a better and elevated plane, so they leave us through what we perceive to be senseless or unfair circumstances, but those circumstances are the only way to expedite them from this harsh realm to the enlightened one they deserve. Well, that's a theory, and theories are great when you don't have any living proof, because theories comfort us, and they also make for great discussion, and discuss is what I'm here to do. So allow me to introduce my guest. She's had an incredibly versatile career. I saw her first as a cast member of probably my favorite sketch show of all time, Mr. Show with Bob and David. After that, she went on to become a writer, the head writer of The Ellen DeGeneres Show and The Rosie Show, in fact. She's been in some absolutely killer movies like Punch Drunk Love and The Anniversary Party, and starred in the Glasgow-based sitcom The Book Club. Also, not a stranger to stand-up, her new album Live at the Bootleg is hilarious and available now. If you ever see her playing live, go be a part of that. And since all of these other accomplishments, she's now settled in at the Pete Holmes Show, where she currently serves, again, as a head writer and a person willing to share an office space with me all day. She's a miracle. She's my boss. Karen Kilgariff, everybody. Let her hear it.
Yay!
Hi.
Oh, wait, do I cheer for myself?
I'm glad. I was glad you cheered because I never said let her hear it before. And I was like, oh, wait, there's nobody to let her.
Let me hear it from your cubicle at your job right now.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
That
How
was
are you?
one of the best introductions I've ever gotten. You hit every really valid thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's important to me. I feel like with the intros, it's two things. I feel like it's the chance for you to let the guests show that they're appreciated, that you appreciate what they do and why you like them as an artist, you know?
Yes.
So you point those things out. But I also get such, like, inspiration. I don't know if you ever see the guy that does Q Radio from Canada?
Oh, yes. You mean musicians that go on there and they play and then talk to him?
Yeah, it's usually always musicians,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I have seen that.
I can't remember the guy's name. I'm embarrassed that I can't. I've seen him interview comics and actors too, but it's mostly music. But he gives the best intros.
Yeah.
And when I would watch that, I thought, if I ever do a podcast, I'm really going to try to hit like the stuff that meant something to me about the guest.
Yeah.
The way he does.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a fan intro almost of like, these are all the reasons I like you.
Yeah.
And then you go like, oh yeah, that's right. Like my Guy Branum, who you saw at Flappers and we did that show, the night before you were there, he did this thing on stage where he goes, I don't know why Karen Kilgariff doesn't brag about the fact that she was in a British sitcom. If I was in a British sitcom, I would say it all. And he did like a bit about it. And of course I loved it because I actually forget sometimes that I was on that show.
Yeah, it was funny when they told us you were going to work with us. I knew who you were, but again, it was mostly for Mr. Show, and the movie stuff you had done. But I went on IMDb to see the other stuff, and when I saw that, I was like, wait, this isn't the same person. This can't be the same person. How was she in a, wait, what? Where was this?
Yeah, that's kind of how it was for me. It literally was. I sent in a videotape to England.
Right.
And got the part, like, through VHS. It was super weird. And it was the most fun. It was, like, the greatest experience. And then I just came back here, and, like, no one knew I did it except for my small circle of friends. And then, like about a year ago, I was in South Pasadena getting at like an ice cream shop, and this woman goes, "Oh, I just saw you in the book group," and I was like, "Wow!" It was like the only time I've ever been recognized for it. Yeah.
That's great. You're the one person that ever booked something from a VHS tape.
I know.
Going on tape. Nobody ever books going. For those of you that don't know, sometimes you audition for things, and if they're reading people in New York, in LA, and you live in New York, they'll say, well, put yourself on tape, which these days just means almost Skyping it in or something.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
your iPhone, whatever. But you used to have to set up a video camera and videotape yourself and then send them the tape. And it's notoriously horrible. You're like in a basement.
Yeah.
Auditioning to nobody. There's like a stuffed animal across from you.
You suddenly become like your own, like you've kidnapped yourself and you're in your own terrible basement, like being forced to make a tape.
That's the way to get out of it.
And it's hopeless. Yeah. Like you're doing this thing where you feel like you just want to go, like you read your lines and then at the end go, forget it. Like it was insane.
Yeah. I mean, well, let me tie this. So this is going to be such a shitty way of tying this.
Perfect.
The subject.
Awesome.
But there is truth to what I'm about to say. I'm being honest. The fact that you got to go over there and do that, that's so cool. That's such a life experience that most people never even get to visit England.
Yeah.
Even if they have the means to do it, they just don't go anywhere. And you got to go over there and live there and work there. And those are the kind of things that would make me less afraid of dying. Because a therapist told me once, you're not really afraid of death. You're afraid of not getting enough done while you're here.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
You know.
But you almost, I feel like you don't know. Like I would have never... I didn't look at it that way. It was like a thing that came up. It was a call that happened. And I feel like that's the way I've lived my whole life. As you say it now in a long list of things, it's like, fuck, yeah. But at the time, it was just, I had moved to LA and I was trying to do the things everyone else was doing. And it was always I was just comparing myself to the people that were doing more than me. And it was never enough. And it was always that kind of stuff. So it's nice to be kind of older and then look back and be like, oh, I have done things. Because as I did them, I didn't appreciate them, or I didn't believe I should have them. There's also that kind of lame, having low self-esteem and being like, why did they pick me for this part? This was a huge mistake.
Oh my God.
Kind of ruin your own good time.
I do that everything I ever get. I know.
That.
I'm like, this is I'm going to get exposed. I'm a fraud.
I'm a fraud.
I lucked into another thing. They'll figure this out and end my career soon enough.
I know.
It's terrible. I mean, well, here's the thing, though. The reason I have such fear of the, lack of achievements or whatever in my life, as I progress and I want to keep amassing more and get more and more done or whatever, it's because in my heart, I hate believing it, but in my heart, I think the most probable thing is when you die, that's it. It's blackness.
Yeah.
And that really freaks me out. And I meant what I said in the intro. I don't understand these people that say things like, who cares, man? You're dead. It'll just be like you won't even know. And it's like, but doesn't that freak you out? The idea of like the oblivion, like eternal blackness forever, nothing, never existing ever again, and then slowly being forgotten. That also freaks me out. I remember I got so depressed watching The Odd Couple one night. It's one of my favorite movies. I love it so much. It's so funny and so charming and so sweet. And I got terribly depressed with it one night because I was watching it and I was like, average kid today probably doesn't know who Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau even are.
Yeah.
They did all this great work, and now it's slowly And I start to focus on that instead of focusing on, but somebody like you does know who they are and appreciates it and remembers it and will show it to your kids or whatever.
Right. But that's also just the inevitability of all humanity is like, you know, that there are very few Edgar Allan Poes or Shakespeare's or these people that kind of survive through millennia. Well, I don't know if millennia is the right word, but you know, centuries or whatever. Very, very few.
Right.
Most people are forgotten. I
just got like a chill when you said that. A bad chill, not good goosebumps chills.
that was a creepy.
Bad chill. Yeah. Ooh.
But I also think that there's the people that you're talking about that say like, who cares, man, you're dead or whatever. That the first thing that comes to mind is like scared. That's what I would say back to that person who was saying that. You're scared and you figured out this rap that you reply to people with to make yourself feel better when they go, this is the thing. This is why everybody does everything they do. It's like everybody's afraid to die and everybody wants love. So that's why they're doing everything good and bad that they do.
What do you think happens afterwards?
I had to tell you, I am not sure. I want to stay in a place of not being sure. My worst fear is the blackness. When I was really young, like this is one of my earliest memories. I think I was probably 4 years old. It's very odd. I remember standing over a heater vent and looking out the back window of my family home, and I had this thought hit me: when you die, you're dead, and it goes on, and it never ends. And in my mind, I was imagining outer space of like just floating in space forever, but it was exactly what you were just saying. It's nothingness forever, and it doesn't end. And even when you think it should end, then it doesn't end some more, and it's another forever. And it was like this insanely huge. I'm not bragging, but I think I was a super genius. No, but I mean, it was the craziest thought to have, and it really scared the shit out of me really badly as a very young child.
It's amazing because now here's a place. This is what I love, is discovering through these discussions where I really connect with somebody, because I always have a hunch that I connect with somebody. But I feel like when we can sit down and talk like this is where you really figure it out. As a kid, I can't say I pinpointed it as a fear of death, but as a child, as early as 3rd grade, this is such a vivid memory. I remember waking up for the first day of school for 3rd grade. My dad waking me up and leaving the room. And I mean, literally the waft of dread that came over me. Not because the kids at school are going to pick on me or I don't think I'm smart enough. None of that stuff. It was literally the sensation of, or the realization of, I can't believe I have to go through another year of this shit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was fully realized. It wasn't worded like that, but it was fully realized. And I remember just day after day, particularly during that time in my life, after school, just sitting and looking out at the dead grass where we lived and just there being nothing. There being where I grew up is fine. It's a nice suburb and everything, but it's not a culturally explosive place, you know? And just looking out and just without understanding why I felt like that, knowing I felt like that.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately this has now manifested itself with my fear of death, because it was the same thing back then. It was seeing the wall and going, the end is in sight, and I can't, what do you do? What can I do? I'm not doing anything worthwhile. I'm just sitting here and everything's dead around me and there's nothing. There's no color and nothing's popping, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that as a child you had those weighty thoughts as well.
Yeah, kind of crazy, like very difficult to manage, and it was almost like, you know, you could say it was anxiety or there was something else going on for sure. But I mean, having just like almost like a ripple effect of holy fucking shit, like really tripping myself out. I also think that is connected to being raised Catholic. So you have this awareness of death, and you know, he is risen, he comes back, and all these things that come to you when you're not of an age to really process it correctly as what it actually is, I think. But more as a literal thing of, dying, the heaven, hell, dying, living your life, in service to this religion so that you can get the good thing and you don't go to this super bad thing.
Right. The Catholic thing's interesting because I was also raised Roman Catholic, and there was the guilt, the just burdensome guilt that comes along with that.
Yeah.
It's always, the answer is always death. It's always, you did this and now you will die in some certain way.
Yeah.
And for instance, sex. I had disease paranoia with sex well into my early 30s. I mean, completely irrational, unrealistic. And I was the safest person sexually, never took any risks, nothing. And had utter disease paranoia in two ways. Either I'm going to contract the big one, I'm going to get HIV, and I'm going to die. Because that's what happens when you have promiscuous sex.
Yep.
Or sex without love. Or I'll get another permanent social disease. These were the only ones I worried about. The big one or the permanent ones like herpes or HPV or one of those that would be reoccurring because that in its own way could be a social death.
Yes.
Now I have this thing that takes me out of the game with at least a certain percentage of people. And now that part of me is dead.
And you got that you're being punished because you went against the agreement.
Exactly.
And you deserve it.
Exactly.
So you take, it's like that thing where grappling with the idea of hell, which I started to do like when I was in high school, which I think many Catholics do. After a while, you start going like, sorry, can we wait? What? And it was that idea that like, my thing was, okay, so you did, say you were just your standard bad Catholic, or you didn't murder anybody, but you were bad.
Right.
So you permanently go to hell and burn forever for being,
right.
You know what I mean? Or whatever ring you're in,
sure.
Or whatever. But then also Jews are there because they didn't get baptized. Like that, it was that kind of thing. I swear to God, I dated this guy in college that was a crazy born-again Christian,
right.
Who he kind of like snuck it up on me after we started, like the first week we were dating, where I was like, ooh, I'd love for you to come to my church. Where I was like, wait, what the fuck? And he was like, I really want you to get saved so that you don't burn in hell. And at first I was like, yeah, I guess he's right. It was that kind of thing of like, maybe he's really cute.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this thought came to me where I was like, so I'm sorry, Andy Kindler is going to for sure burn in hell. He was the first comic I ever met, and I loved him so much. And he was like the greatest person I ever met. And I was like, so automatically, no matter what he does, he could do great things for the rest of his life. He automatically burns. That's some bullshit.
I'm going to burn in hell?
I don't even get to go to where the green room of hell is. I can't do an Andy Kindler.
I don't like hell. Too much heat.
I'm down here with Hitler.
I would spit coffee.
And that's when I was just like, you know what? I think all of this is bullshit, and it's people. Who knows? I'm not saying that there isn't something. I'm just saying it's very convenient that it would be so persuasive to make people do the things you want them to do now by saying, here's the punishment you're going to get if you don't get this one man to put blessed water on your forehead when you're a baby, or whatever it is. It's
a really intense thing to put on a kid. I mean, I had
fucking Stations of the Cross. Are you kidding me?
Brutal.
That was like torture.
Brutal. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and I mean, I remember the videos. I remember one time when I was in high school, we watched around Easter time. We watched like a Stations of the Cross video. And
wait, what? A video of like Jesus going through the stations?
It was the stations, like acted out in a really weird like theater way where everybody had these like big wooden masks on.
Oh,
like,
no.
Everybody, Jesus, everybody. They had these big wooden like sort of interpretive masks on. And it was so fucking disturbing. Like, I remember me and my...
like Mum and Sean's Catholic church.
Yeah, it was like...
horrifying.
Yeah, it was really creepy. And I remember me and my friend, like...
Crying?
No, well, I remember me and my friend making fun of it, but, like, making fun of it in the way of being like, what the fuck, man? You know, like,
yeah.
Like, we were laughing at it, but there was all the foundation for the jokes were all like, what are they doing to us right now?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? I had such hell paranoia as a child. I had such sin paranoia. I would go to my mom and I would say, remember when I was in 7th grade? 7th grade, I went to a dance and there was this really hot girl who had leather boots and a leather jacket, which meant she was a whore.
Slut.
Yeah. And I remember, and she was older than me. She was, I think I was 11 or 12 and she was 14. So she was really a whore. We danced, a slow dance, and it was the first bold move as a man that I'd ever made. I started kissing her neck, and it was hot. She was sweating, so I was getting all this sweat in my mouth. And I remember I went home to my mom, and I thought I got AIDS from drinking the girl's sweat.
Ugh.
And I was like, and if I didn't get a disease or some sort of punishment disease or whatever, I was going to go to hell, and I had to go confess this because I acted in sin. I would go to confession and I'd say things like, by the way, I noticed that a few times already I've said punishment disease. I hope everybody listening understands that I'm saying that's crazy. Like I was wrong for thinking that.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. We get it. We get you. Because it's insane. Like you don't have to clarify it because any normal person would just be like, that's deeply fucked.
Yeah.
But like for us, that was the setup.
It was.
That was the setup.
My
father, and I think I've told you the story. One night we watched The Serpent and the Rainbow, which is your standard, like almost
movie.
like it's a voodoo zombie movie that's almost like, anthropologically based.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point, one of the native women and the guy that's down there studying the voodoo or whatever, they have sex under a waterfall. My father got up and stormed out of the room because it was my father and I watching this movie like, wow, this is crazy and like having a great time.
Right.
And when the sex started, he got up and slapped his newspaper down and stormed out like, good night. And so it's like, I feel dirty and the movie's dirty and he won't even be around. Like, I think I've maybe have talked around the slight topic of sex with my father maybe 3 times in my lifetime, and I'm over 40.
Right.
It's crazy.
Never, ever, literally never, ever once talked about sex with my dad.
With your dad?
Never. My mom was the one that taught me the birds and the bees as a kid. She showed me these books that were meant for kids.
With the people with wooden faces?
Yeah, there were people with wooden faces.
Having sex.
Yeah. I remember very vividly reading the book and going, ew, that's not how it happens.
Yeah.
I was really grossed out by it.
It can't be this.
Yeah.
Please.
But my dad and I have never, ever, ever talked about anything sexual, nothing, not once. The only thing sexual I've ever said, my dad's seen my stand-up where I've talked about sex, and he's been in the audience, but that's not a direct thing.
Right.
The only direct sexual thing I've ever said to my father was we were driving in a car when I was a child, and a woman on the side of the road was bending over, and her cleavage was hanging out, and she was sweaty because she was bicycling. And I was with my cousin John and my parents, and I exclaimed, "Oh my God, look at those tits." Because as a 12-year-old boy, I was so overcome with horniness that I had to exclaim that. Sure. And my dad thought that was funny.
Yeah.
My dad thought that was really funny. That's the only sex talk my dad and I have ever had. For all I know, he thinks I still don't know how it works.
I think the only sex talk I've ever had with my dad is we were playing Trivial Pursuit one night, and there was a question about a columnist that used to be in Playboy, and he knew the answer right away. And then he turned to me and goes, "Are you disappointed in me?" And he was half joking and I think half serious. And I was like, Great. If you didn't answer that, I would have known you were a liar. Like it's fine. And I was like in my 30s. It wasn't like I was a kid.
Sure.
That sure. And then my cousin, I had this cousin that was constantly getting knocked up when she was like not married and very young. And one time my dad just, like my mom goes, well, I won't say her name, but so-and-so's pregnant again. My dad goes, Jesus, is she a seahorse? And that's it. That's as sexual as any topic has ever been. Yep.
Yeah. We again, very Catholic household growing up. My dad's a deacon in the Catholic Church.
You got to read a lot in front of the people?
Yeah, he still does. He's pretty heavily involved, and he's deacon's step below priest, for those of you that don't know. If my mom ever were to die, my dad would be allowed to become a priest. And I think he would. I don't think he would get remarried. I think he would finish the journey. But,
Some call it a journey.
Yeah, a journey, yeah. He's incredibly righteous, though. He doesn't put it on anybody. You could talk to either of my parents for hours. You'd never in a million years know that they were religious people.
Right.
They would never preach it to you. They're not typically Catholic. They're not condemning of homosexuals they don't do all that shit. They go to church. They do their best to be good people. They love God and they try to live a decent life. And
they're Italian, right?
They are Italian.
Yeah, I think it's that culture. It's mine are Irish Catholic, and it's that same thing where when they were growing up, I think it was just so much more common of like it was just in their lives. That's how you were raised. It was it was kind of based on your nationality or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting thing about the same Italian upbringing that's instilled an unhealthy fear of death in me. There's an interesting thing about that I only say Italian culture because I can't speak to the other cultures because this is the one I was raised in. There's an acceptance of almost everything. It's just kind of like, yeah, you do your thing and I'm not going to talk to you about it, whatever, man. I don't care. It's like that mob thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the way mobsters hang out with priests and both parties are just like, we won't talk about it.
Yeah. You have to talk about it.
It's okay. So I think that's maybe what is part of what lent to their being more open-minded, I think, than the average person cut from the cloth that they're cut from. But I will say, that all being said, not stringent, but a pretty strict Catholic upbringing, and just such fear. I want to get back to the sin thing, such fear of the afterlife damnation. I mean, I was confessing things like I had impure thoughts. I was doing like 1950s style confessions as a kid,
Right.
Impure thoughts 3 times this week, impure acts, which at that age I wasn't masturbating. That meant like I gave somebody the finger. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or whatever.
Well, yeah, because at that age, realistically, you have to make stuff up when you're in confession. Confession is such this archaic, weird, that thing sliding back and the screen between, or at least that's how it was for us. It was
that's how it was for us. They had the face-to-face option.
That was weird.
There was an option to go face-to-face, and I was like, I'm never doing that.
Face-to-face freaked me out. We did that one time.
Yeah.
That was like Vatican II stuff.
Yeah.
That was like guitar mask shit. It was like,
yeah.
But the other version, I was so obsessed with like getting it right, and then like getting it right in terms of like reporting enough sins. So like when you're 8 years old going to confession or whenever your first confession is, you're making shit up. It's like I didn't even know what impure thoughts really meant. I never made them up. I was as far back as I can remember. I was so paranoid about everything that I was going to burn in hell forever that I was like overly confessing. I'd go in and come out with small penance, but I'd go in thinking he's going to throw like the fucking book at me today. You know what I mean? Like. And then I'd come out with like 2 Hail Marys because in retrospect, it was like, it was nothing what I was confessing. But that's how, I think even the priest was like, this kid's fucking paranoid. Well,
but
also that it's like the early brainwashing of understand how bad you are. Report on yourself and know how bad you are because here's the stakes. I remember my thing was kind of opposite where I knew I was bad. Like I remember looking at a booklet that was all about gossip and what a sin gossip was and talking about people and what you meant and your words and all that kind of stuff. And I just that's something our family did constantly is like you sit at the kitchen table and people make tea and you sit around and talk shit about your relatives. And that's, my grandma called it reporting the news. It was gossiping.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I'm a bad person for liking that and doing it and talking about it. And my thing was always like, truly like trying to impress Jesus. It was this thing of like, I had this delusion of grandeur of like, if I can be good enough, he might come back today. Like, I want him to show up at my church
That's
in
so
front
great.
of my people. That was like the idea I had, where I was like, we can do this, you guys. It was like that thing. But after a while, you start to realize like it almost felt like, what am I getting out of this? Because after, you go to enough Stations of the Cross, and it's like, I can't believe people still want to do it after like 12 years. I went to grammar school. I went to Catholic school for 6 years. And that first round of Stations of the Cross, it was like torture. I think it was 3 hours long. You're on your knees most of the time. It stinks like incense. Yeah. And the whole thing's about a guy that walked to his death. Like, it's so fucking dark.
It's crazy dark. It's crazy dark, and yet it was always my favorite part of the Jesus movies. I remember as a kid watching The Greatest Story Ever Told with my parents on Easter weekend and saying to my mom, Mommy, is it a sin that my favorite part is the crucifixion? Because that was... It wasn't like I wanted to see Jesus killed. It was just, that was the exciting... As a kid, that's an exciting part in a movie. It's the part where there's violence.
That's your act. That's your act break.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hell of an ending. You're like, whoa, shit.
The ultimate Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. And I remember being so disturbed with myself for liking that part. And now I realize, like, no, it's just good cinema.
Right.
It's just the good part of the movie.
It was all building toward that.
Yeah, it's action. It's the end. Exactly.
I had the same thing with, we had the book of the Amityville Horror in our school library, which
you did?
Isn't that hilarious? And there was an old nun.
Did you go to Catholic school?
Yes. And so I found that one day, and I used to check it out like every week. And this old nun who looked like the Crypt Keeper used to get mad at me because I couldn't get enough of the Amityville Horror, and I was like, there's something wrong with me. Then I started loving the idea that there was something wrong with me, that as opposed to this thing of, I'm going to get Jesus to show up in Petaluma at St. Vincent's Church, that instead it was like, I'm fascinated by murder and by death and by demons and all these things. And it was purely because it was taboo. And it was the whole thing of like, that's more exciting than trying to sit there and pray it all away.
Well, that's the thing. I'm fascinated by death. It is a fascination. As afraid as I am with death, I mean, terribly afraid. I mean, I'm talking, I lay in bed and vividly imagine what it would be like to have a massive heart attack in that moment. Currently, I do this. I lay there and I'm like, probably die from a heart attack. What a heart attack. Okay. What would that be like? Would it just come on? Probably feel like tight. And I get so far down that road that I'm like, I start to panic a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a fascination because the other thing I do, besides be terrified by it, is go on Wikipedia and read how a person died. I find people I admire. Well, how did this guy die? What happened? Was it justified? Was it a justified death? Did he smoke himself to death? I can live with that. Or did he just die unfairly? I can't live with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I'll find myself reading Wikipedia pages and going, how could this guy have died at 43? This is terrible. Oh, thank God it was cirrhosis. Okay, there was a reason. There's some logic to all this. Because all of it is logic to this fucking equation and why do we go and all that. And it's terrible. Then I go on YouTube and I try to find last interviews. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Which is sick. It's sick.
It's not, though. It's fascinating. That's just it. It's like, that's why they say that's why people smoke. It's like you get to flirt with death. You have a little moment of that where you're like, fuck it. I'm doing it. I'm going there. And I'm not only not going to fear it or be careful of it, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go all the way in.
Right. Well, it's funny. I never fully realized that until there was an episode of Marin where he talks about how the whole episode is about he sponsors Danny Trejo in AA or whatever, and the whole episode's about his addictions, his past addictions. And he says he talks at the beginning of the episode about like the all-night binge of booze and coke. And seeing that sun come up and realizing you won, like you beat death.
Yeah.
You didn't die.
Yeah.
And look, I've had my wild nights, and I never thought of it like that. But when he said that, I was like, oh my God, is that what it is? Subconsciously, I think that's what it is. It's saying, fuck you. health and safety and rules and possible, Grim Reaper.
Yes.
I'm going to do this.
I saw a book. I remember seeing a book, I think when I was a teenager, that was about all the, I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's the stuff that they put in advertising that the
subliminal?
Yeah, subliminal messages.
Subliminal, yes. And
they show and it confused me so much at first and for a long time. They show the subliminal messages of in liquor ads when there used to be skulls in the ice cubes or whatever.
Right.
And it was this whole thing of that people are fascinated by and very drawn to that idea of you are going to flirt with death. You are going to touch there and then walk away from it. That's it's a very primal, basic thing that human beings have, that they can't turn away from it because it is the ultimate fear. It's I'm afraid of raccoons or whatever, but it's ultimately what it is you're afraid of dying of a raccoon bite or whatever.
Sure. And here's the thing too, and I'm sure this is a theory that has been much more eloquently stated by people far, far smarter than I am.
Well, let's just see.
But, part of me wonders, is that urge to do these self-destructive things your higher existence calling you home? Is it that multi-dimensional reality where there are these multiple planes and you're this spiritual being up here that, when you go to sleep at night, the astral projection, you leave your body, you go back to the home plane, and then you return down here during the day to drive your basically flesh car around. You know what I mean? Until you park it again at night, and then you go back. I've met psychics that really believe that that's what it is. It's not ever dreaming. It's transporting to someplace else, leaving your body. Maybe that's what that flirtation with death is. Maybe it's your higher consciousness saying, fuck this, man. Let's get out of here. This is stupid. We got a whole crazy thing where we can fly and walk through walls, and it's like the Matrix. It's amazing up there. Let's go. What are we doing down here?
That is fascinating, and as you were explaining it, it kind of made me dizzy. It's trying to, the flesh car thing where it's wait, what the fuck? But it makes me think, if we are these spiritual beings or pure light that fly or whatever, wouldn't we do it better than, having 17 drinks at the Tiki Tea? You know what I mean? Or smoking Marlboro Reds?
But here's the thing. The reason I think we wouldn't do it better is because it's not a conscious thing. If it was a conscious thing, you'd do it better. If it was a conscious thing, you'd walk into the ocean, do that weird thing where they just keep walking,
yes,
and the water just keeps getting deeper.
Virginia Woolf style, you just kind of take it as you just go into it with your eyes open. Yeah. You never close your eyes as you got into the water. Horrifying.
Yeah. So it's I think if you had a fully conscious idea of this, sure, maybe you would do it better, but you don't. It's it is like when you get into your car. When you get into your car, you're not as aware up here as you are the rest of the time because you're so focused on driving the car and not crashing.
Yes.
Everything is, so maybe when we come into this body, it's just so focused on controlling this fucking body, like that Meet Dave movie with Eddie Murphy.
I love that movie. I swear to God, I love that movie.
I never saw it.
It's funny.
Is it?
It is funny.
Look, I stand by Eddie Murphy no matter what. I own Norbit. I think Norbit's fucking hilarious, and I get mad at people when they shit on it.
I know.
It's funny, man.
He's a genius.
Yeah, people go, what? You think this is funny? It's it's Eddie Murphy dating himself dressed up as a fat black lady. It's fucking hilarious.
I actually don't care. I could just watch Eddie Murphy winding his watch. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's totally him.
Exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe, you plug into this thing.
I have
and
a friend.
And it's a lesser, it's like the Matrix. They plug in.
Yes, that makes sense.
And they have to be awakened in a certain way before they finally realize, oh my God, I can do all this with my body over here.
Yes, and that makes sense to me either on the very literal way that you mean it, that we are these pure light beings and for whatever reason we're in meat body cars.
Flesh cars,
sorry.
By the way, that's the most Pete Holmes sounding thing I've ever said in my life.
Flesh cars?
Yeah. This is your flesh car. You drive it around and it's
Get yourself a spiritual pine tree to hang on the rearview mirror.
You go to the mall. That's traffic. It's literally, I could hear his voice.
Everything. We work a lot. We're at work a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say my friend Bradford got into a really terrible car accident when he was in his early 20s, and he got basically hit head on by a semi.
Right.
And he had a death experience. He was out for a while. And he remembers all of it, and he has told me about it, and it's super amazing. And he basically went to a place where there were two beings of light who said, don't freak out, and this is kind of what it's all about. And, like, if you knew my friend Bradford, he is the chillest person. He's hilarious. And he's very, I can't really explain it. He's just kind of a very open, aware, keyed in person.
Right.
That's very, like, kind of zen, low key all the time.
Right.
And I think it's because, and I think he thinks it's because he kind of got a peek behind this curtain in a way. And absolutely, like, I think all things are possible. I really do. Like, the way our brains are, we were just talking about that in the room today of, like, that your brain is this thing. Scientists don't know how it works, except for like 5% of it or whatever.
I know.
So it could be anything. When you hit it a certain way, it makes you look at these things that actually, you know, maybe it was a poster for a sci-fi movie he saw when he was 8 years old, and that's just what he's seeing. It could be anything.
It could be that. It could be a thing that your brain self-programs that says, okay, when you die, this is what you need to see.
Yeah.
So you don't. Well, I freak out. You're dead. I mean, you know.
Right.
But, you know, this is the most pleasing shutdown process for you.
Right.
You know, we've all heard the scientists say that, you know, your body goes through the shutdown process. You see the light. I'll tell you this. I have a friend that was pronounced legally dead for a short period of time and then rejuvenated. Is that the right word?
No. Was resuscitated?
Resuscitated.
Rejuvenated.
What's
Like, he had beautiful skin.
Okay.
Like, he was young again.
Not good with words. Resuscitated. And he was like, I didn't see shit.
That means he's going to hell.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I was like, okay.
And you're like, lose my number. Never talk to me again.
No, I loved him so much, and it made me so sad that he said that. I was just like, God damn it, I don't need to hear this.
But what about the stories of the people that float up above the operating table and they hear the whole conversation and they're being resuscitated as they're floating away and then they get brought back?
I think, I mean, again, look, it could be, wow, that's what it is. It could also be when you're in that state of I'm just about to fall asleep and you're having the half awake, half asleep dream, and all the elements of the room are part of that dream. I mean, we've all been there. You're on the couch on a Sunday, it's 3 p.m., you hit that just about to doze off place, and you're having an almost awake dream where the movie you're watching is part of it. You're hearing things.
Oh my God, I do that so much. I fall asleep in front of the TV so much, and I've had the most fucked up dreams that end up being about, like, the slap chop or whatever. Right. Because that's actually what my brain is hearing, but it's somehow incorporating it into, like, weird shit where we're all at work. Or it's so irritating. But you know what I was going to say is, well, I've had ghostly encounters. I have a super good story about
what?
Well, I lived in a haunted house when I was in college with 3 girls, my 3 friends, and one weekend. Well, here's what happened. So one day, my friend used to fall asleep on the couch all the time, and one night I had this nightmare, and it was very bland, but it was that I heard someone on our front porch, and I walked up to the front door, and it was like an old house, so there was like, it was a front door with a glass, like a window at the top.
Yeah. And
I looked out that window, and there's a mother and a daughter standing on our front porch.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
And the daughter had braids, and the mother was saying to the daughter, "It's okay, we're just going to stand here for a little while. I don't think he saw us." And they had a suitcase. So that was the dream, and that was all that happened in the dream. But when I woke up, I couldn't breathe. I was super freaked out. I was really upset for the mother and the daughter. It was like this whole thing, and it was very upsetting. And I got up and I opened my bedroom door, which opened up onto the living room, and my friend Patty was asleep on the couch, on the living room couch. And so my opening my bedroom door woke her up. And when she woke up, she screamed kind of and went, oh my God, like that. And and she goes, oh, I just had the worst dream. And I go, were you dreaming about the mother and the daughter on the front porch? And she goes, oh my God, why did you say that? And she started crying. And that is what she was dreaming about.
What?
Yes.
What?
So that is what she was dreaming about. And we had this thing where we were just standing there, like, getting the chills. So that fucking weekend, they all leave town. This is the kind of stuff when you tell a story, you're like, I don't know how I didn't see this coming because it's so crazy.
Jesus Christ.
So they all leave fucking town and I'm there by myself. And that night I go to bed and I go get in bed and I'm laying there and I am not falling asleep and I'm not falling asleep and whatever. And I tell this knowing that there is a possibility I went to sleep and all of this was some kind of very strange lucid dream or it was a dream or whatever. But I will say just for my own, as the witness to my own experience, I was not asleep. So I'm laying there and I can't go to sleep and I'm staring at the wall and I'm kind of starting to get freaked out. I am in this house by myself, whatever. I hear footsteps in the hallway, in the back hallway.
Come on.
And I hear, at first I'm like, that's just a noise. And then it's like distinct footsteps like this. And so I'm laying there and my back is to the room. I'm facing the wall. And there was a door right next to my bed that opened onto the bathroom. So there's two doors in my room, the one to the living room and the one to the bathroom. And there was two doors on that bathroom, the one to my room and the one to that hallway where I was hearing the footsteps. I hear that bathroom door open. I hear 3 footsteps go across the bathroom floor on the linoleum. And at this point, as I'm hearing that, because I was like, it could be anything. Those are fucking human footsteps. There's a fully grown person in this house. Holy shit, this is where I die. And it's like at each step going, it's this growing panic, but I'm frozen in my bed like I know
the panic you're talking about, like the complete full body pins and needles. I can't fucking move.
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean.
But it was not when you're asleep and sometimes you can't move and it freaks you out and it's like partly a dream and you're like, I want to get up from this bed and you can't. And that's that weird when you're kind of like, in between dreaming and waking up and you're kind of like coming out. Maybe they say that that's like coming out of a deep sleep and into like the higher stages of sleep. But this was not that.
Right.
This was full panic.
Yeah.
Can't breathe, can't inhale. Literally thinking, this is how I die. I can't fucking believe I'm going to get murdered. This is bullshit. Like it was those kinds of thoughts.
Right.
I hear the bedroom door open. I hear 2 feet steps on the carpeting in my room. And then the side of my bed where it was a single bed, which was the saddest part of the story. My back's to the room. There's pressure that goes down so that I am in like this frozen position, facing the wall and pressure goes down on the bed behind me. Like someone sat down on the bed and I tipped back with that weight, and I'm literally just like not breathing and staring at this wall like these are my last moments. And then I feel an arm go around this part of me and an arm go under me and start squeezing. And I'm like, oh! And then it was over. It was over. It was gone. The weight was gone. I wasn't tipped back anymore. I was just like that. I think I was either coming up from that position or it was like click and it was over.
Shut the fuck
I call my
up.
fucking sister. It's like 3:45 in the morning or something like that. And I'm like,
this my literally jaw open. For the first time in my life, literally my jaw dropped.
Yeah. And
I can't believe
my
this.
sister came and got me. She was so fucking pissed at me. She lived across town. Thank God she was there. And I was like, I can't be in this house by myself anymore. And a lot of weird things happened in that house that we never put together because we were drunk all the time and we were like, oh, party in the USA. But like, we would have people stay at the house and they would get up in the morning and be like, why the fuck were you doing dishes in the middle of the night? And we'd be like, I didn't do it. But no one ever came together and went, every time someone stays over, they get mad at us for doing dishes in the middle of the night and no one's doing it. Like we weren't connecting any of these pieces.
Oh my God.
There was one day where me and my roommate both got migraines so bad. And I've never had a migraine in my life and never had one since. We were in that bedroom flat out laid out, couldn't open our eyes, couldn't see. My sister had to come over again and take us both to the emergency room because something was wrong with us. Like we were in like severe brain pain. It was insane. And now I realize, looking back, it was a fucking haunted house and something really fucked up was happening.
This is my theory. Family lived there, mom, father, daughter. Dad was doing inappropriate shit with the kid. Mom and daughter tried to escape. They all ended up dead.
Except for,
murder, suicide, and that ghost was the dad going back to the little girl's room in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
That is very likely, except for that they were, in the dream that I had, the mother-daughter, it seemed like they were escaping from something else bad. Like they were on that porch thinking that was the place they should go, and actually that was the place where they were murdered or something bad happened.
See, I thought of it as, I mean, you had the dream, you know better than me, but I thought of it as they're trying to get away from the guy in the house. And she's saying, he didn't see us leave, sweetie. Like, daddy's awake in there.
I was thinking they were coming up, but that's very true. They could have, I was looking, because the weird thing was, I think I was so upset in that dream because I was in his position. I was in the house looking out the window at them. I think that's why it was so freaky.
That's exactly how I see it.
Yeah.
He's in the house.
Yeah.
She's like, he didn't see us, don't worry. Oh no, he did.
He did.
And here's where everybody dies.
And everyone gets a big death hug.
Yeah.
In my room. It was really crazy.
It's
and
fucking so scary.
Yeah. It was super insane.
Oh my God. That's serious. That's like bone chilling story. Now here's the crazy part. As frightening as I thought that was, complete also at the same time relief. Oh, there's ghosts. It's real. There's something else after that.
Yes, well, but you know what?
It's such a duality to the or just a double-sided coin.
Well, it's like saying there's more is possible. I think that's always comforting, even if it's like something horrifying or weird, or like you're saying, like you carry chains for the rest of your life or whatever.
Right.
But that it's not just awesome clouds and high-fiving Jesus or burning. Like that there's other things that could possibly going on.
Yeah, I used to have a bit about when you'd watch the Twilight Zone or something. Yeah, Twilight Zone was big on this. There'd be like episodes where a lady would just be in a log cabin and she'd be like, why am I here? And like Abraham Lincoln would be there and he would just keep talking in riddles the whole time. And then the big twist at the end would be like, she's dead. She's in the afterlife, and he's now leading her into, whatever.
Right.
And they were
That's
always
what
that.
Jacob's Ladder was based on.
Yeah.
That episode.
Yeah. I'm making this up. That wasn't a real episode. But there was elements. It was always something like that.
Yeah.
Not always, but those
just
episodes
surreal
were like that.
And creepy and unnerving.
Yeah, not even creepy and unnerving, just like, this is weird. Why is this happening? This is a strange scenario. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's 'cause you're dead. And here, or it'd be like a soldier in Abe Lincoln. Mr. President, it's an honor to be in your presence, sir. No, I've already died. So have you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like one of those things.
Yes.
But there's always that moment where the character who's recently died, freaks out a little bit or has like a moment of the startling, like, no. Or they'll do an episode where death comes in the form of Robert Redford. And, and takes the woman away. And she's like,
and offers a man $1 million to have sex with his wife.
Yeah. Here's $1 million. I'm going to bang your wife. And she's dead.
And I'll hold my scythe the whole time.
Yeah. And like, but these people would always resist. And it's like, what are you resisting? You know that it gets to go on to the next thing. If Robert Redford came in this room right now and said, Joe, I am death. You've cheated me long enough. We're leaving. There would literally be no part of me that would be like, wait, hold on. The only thing, even a little bit, would be like...
But you haven't written any of your monologues. Get your work done
my
first.
Monologues for work. But do you know what I mean? Like, there'd be the part of me that's like, can I just call my mom? Like,
right.
Just let her know that I'm going to be okay. Like, that'd be it. I'd be like, let's fucking...
Let her know that you're going to be okay. You died.
Yeah, but that's the thing. In 5 years or 20 years, I'll see you over there.
Yeah.
We're going to go on this new supernatural adventure right now, and you'll be there too. It's going to be great. Who doesn't want that? I don't get it.
Can I tell you just from
this is bullshit here. This is utter bullshit.
Look at these gorgeous curtains. You have it good.
Target.
I had a near-death experience, as you know, very recently.
Yes.
And I think part of the shock, I mean, obviously there are people who either don't think of it or don't want to think of it or whatever. But there is that part of it where my near-death experience, for anybody who gives a shit about me, is I was at the Mohawk in South by Southwest when that guy drove up the street and plowed down 25 people.
Yeah.
I was standing a foot away, and and I was standing in the back of the line that he hit first, and moments before he did it, and I feel very strangely lucky and like I truly escaped death, and it was very strange.
Right.
And I've never had an experience like that before, so direct. Right. Part of it is this sensation, and I imagine that, like we're also talking about movies where this is half fake, so whatever, but it's such a surreal sensation to have something not just out of the ordinary, but the worst possible thing that could happen that you can't, like, you can't even imagine. It's like the whole world changes. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of it, is that the last thing I was thinking of was anything like that. We were standing there listening to X, like talking about the show we just did and riffing and fucking around. And then the world exploded. And it's that kind of, no, I don't think people are ready, because even as much as you obsess about it, when something really happens, it's so shocking, It's
terribly shocking. And it also lets you, I think it's shocking because it makes you realize it can happen at any moment.
It can happen at any second.
There's that horrible, might have been the absolute worst thing I've ever read in the news, as far as like stuff like this is concerned. It's all horrible, obviously, but this one I was just like, oh my God. It was a fucking bachelorette party. The bride and her 5 or 6 bachelorites.
In the limo?
In the limo. And the limo catches fire and they all burn to death. Yeah. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
Horrifying.
Like, talk about, like, didn't see that coming from a mile away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just horrible.
That was up in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's so scary, is the randomness of it all.
And that you would never predict that. Like, you sitting in your bed going, maybe a heart attack, and trying to run scenarios.
Right.
Which is, I think everyone does that. I think that's why I love, like, serial killer stuff, is because it's like, I want to try to figure out what possibly could happen. So if it starts to happen, there's something I could do about it, or I would be prepared, or this wouldn't be the most alien thing in the world to me.
Sure.
But there's no real way to do that when it is your reality, when it starts to truly unfold in reality.
No, there isn't. Which I think is, I'm a huge horror movie fan. Funny enough, as scared of dying as I am. And that's why I don't like, I think that's probably why I don't like serial killer horror movies that much.
You don't?
I don't dislike all of them. I love the Halloween movies, and I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there are ones where it's just a guy killing people. He's crazy, that I enjoy. But my favorite horror movies are like The Exorcist, In the Mouth of Madness, supernatural, demonic shit.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for dual reason. One is, it's not that real to me.
Right.
So I can escape in it and get lost in it. Guy slashing people's throats because he's nuts is real.
Yeah.
I can see that on the news. It's too much of a reality check. And then the flip side of that is, demons, devils. Maybe there's an afterlife. That's kind of comforting, even though the devil's inside a 12-year-old girl right now. That's another bit I used to have where I want to believe in the afterlife so badly that if I had a daughter and the priest was like, she's got the devil in her, I'd be like, yeah, like a little bit. Just to be like, okay, we know it's coming, but here's the thing. Even if my daughter dies from the demon possession, it's okay. She's going to heaven.
Yeah.
There's a thing.
True.
There's another. That's what I don't understand, like, people that firmly believe in it crying and getting upset when there's death. It's like, if you really believe there's this next thing, you'll see them.
But it's, you know what it is? Because people don't have proof. Like, we have proof that people go into the ground and stay there forever. So it's super easy to believe that that's it. And that's an easy thing to kind of like really contemplate and freak out on, because that's terrible, and it's, you know, it's like the ultimate loss.
Yeah.
It's you know, things being over. But I have a story that's the equal opposite of the one I told you before, that kind of goes hand in hand with that you might like.
Is it a mother and daughter actually being on your porch?
No, well, similar.
What is it?
Our next door neighbor, when I was like 12, her name was Joyce Withington, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it got bad very quickly, and she didn't want to die in the hospital, so they moved a hospital bed into their front room, and she just laid there, and basically spent her final days in the front room of her house. And my mom was an RN, so my mom would go over there, especially in the end, when she was close to dying. My mom would go there and take like the night shift, you know, and the Withingtons, their grandma lived in a mobile home next door to them. So, and that her name was Nani, and she was, you know, they were a great family, and it was super humongous tragedy and terrible. And so my mom was there, when on Joyce Withington's, on her last day there, alive. And my mom was a psychiatric nurse, and my mom was a super no shit gal. Like she was not a romantic. She was not a new age person at all. She was very kind of like, she was very much about being a critical thinker. She was, you know, very science oriented. She was not one for tales. And this is her story. So she stayed the night with Joyce and, you know, just trying to keep her comfortable. And she fell asleep next to her. And she woke up in the morning, and Joyce was talking, and she hadn't talked in weeks. And her eyes were open, and she was saying stuff, and she was reaching toward the sliding glass door that was her bed was right next to, that went to the porch that went to their backyard. And she was reaching out and smiling and like talking and looking really beatifically happy. And my mom watched her for a little while, and then she just put her hand down and closed her eyes, and then soon after died. So they, you know, the ambulance comes and takes her away, and my mom is sitting there with Nani, that was her daughter, and they're sitting in the kitchen and, you know, just sitting there drinking tea and crying and the whole thing. And Nani says, it was so strange because an hour before this happened, my sister in Michigan called me, and she said, whatever Nani's real name was, like Marion or something. She said, Marion, I just woke up from this dream. So Nani's husband, Joyce's father, died when she was like 25.
Mm-hmm.
And so the aunt, Nani's sister, who called her from Michigan, said, I had this dream that Jack went up to the back sliding glass door at Joyce's house and went and got her.
Jesus Christ.
And my mom was like, what? And then she said, yeah, that explained everything that my mom saw on her side. The aunt dreamed it, that it was the father coming to get Joyce to take her away. Jesus
God. That's amazing.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
Uh-huh. And I think my mom told us that story because of that. Because it was like she wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Like she wouldn't want to tell a story like that just to be like, and Jesus is real or whatever. It was like my mom was fucking floored. They both were floored. They cried together, and it was this kind of thing of like, whatever. But what a beautiful thought that this woman who had suffered for so long, her father came and fucking got her.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I think it's important to find a little beauty in stories like that. I don't look, I'm not a big believer, and I lean far harder in the atheist direction than in the other one. But I really can't stand when people aren't open at all to stories like that. You know what I mean? Like, because none of us know. We can't prove any of this stuff.
Right.
And I don't like when people are like, fuck you, it's not real, idiot. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. There's a million people that are not stupid, podunk, back swamp fucking morons. Not to say you're a moron just because you live in a swamp. Not generalizing, but you know what I'm saying.
Think of the genius that lives in a swamp.
Yeah.
How sad that is.
Yeah.
He's just stuck there.
Yeah, I just thought of that like he's like building a rocket ship like that Billy Bob Thornton movie. He's like, but yeah, it's like you got to stay open to stuff like that. You got to stay open, if for nothing else, to bring it full circle. It's inspiring. It makes you want to have discussion. It's comforting, and it's a good thing to think about. And it doesn't mean you're tricking yourself or fooling yourself or bullshitting yourself. Let go of all that nonsense of like, oh man, I'm not going to fucking kid myself. I'm not doing that shit. I'm better than that. Let go of that.
Well,
man.
because that's a version of kidding yourself. I have
Exactly.
to say, it's like oversimplifying in this way of I'm intelligent, so I'm going to cut away all these possibility and say this is how it is. Where it's like anybody who ever says this is how it is full of fucking shit.
It's
They don't know. No one knows.
It's the scene in Swingers where who's the lady from The Closer? Kira Sedgwick, yeah. Where Kira Sedgwick says to Campbell Scott, I can't believe I knew Campbell Scott's name, but I didn't know Kira Sedgwick's name. I'm a big fan of both. Well, you
knew The Closer. That's what's important.
But it's the scene in Swinger, not Swingers, Singles. Fuck, I'm fucking this all up.
I never saw Swingers, so I was like, all right. Yeah. Kira Sedgwick was in this.
It's the scene in Singles where Campbell Scott goes up to Kira Sedgwick to hit on her in the bar and gives her that whole honesty rap. And then she goes, I think your pitch is that you don't have a pitch. You're the guy that acts like he doesn't have a thing, and that's really your thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's you're the guy that says you don't worry about this stuff or you don't believe in any of it. None of it ever crosses your mind because it's just for a bunch of idiots. But that's just your pitch, and it's bullshit. We should go over a few questions before we wrap up. We got some time left. This is a little longer than usual, but I knew I wanted to have you on because I knew it would be a good discussion.
You could tell I've been hugged by a ghost before. You knew.
Hugged by a ghost. That's your new TV show. I want to tell you a funny thing, and then we'll do the questions. I'm almost scared you're not going to think this is funny. This is what I like about you so much. I said to Jamie the other day, I feel like I have a very brotherly, sisterly relationship with Karen. And Jamie said, yeah, me too. Jamie Lee, who's a comic who's great that we work with as well. And Jamie said, yeah, me too. I feel like we all feel like that. And I said, I really like Karen because she calls me on my shit. And Jamie was like, yeah, she's great. And I go, no, Jamie, I have to confess something to you. Because I was driving Jamie home from work. And I go, remember today in the room when we were going over the monologue and I put my head back and Karen said that I was rolling my eyes like a 13-year-old? I was like, I was rolling my eyes like a 13-year-old.
I knew it!
And I totally denied it. But I wasn't like rolling my eyes at you like, fuck you, Karen. It was such a long day and it was so stressed. And my head just did an organic thing of like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I threw my head back and you totally called me on it. And nobody else did. And I was like, fuck, she really gets it. She gets me.
That's because I was the one talking. It was like, how dare your head not stay up the whole time? I love that you admitted that. That's fucking genius. Kudos to you. I would have never admitted that if I got caught like that. But here's the thing.
Well, I didn't admit it in the moment. I lied in the moment.
Who cares?
I almost pulled
if it was 4 years later.
I almost pulled you aside at work today to admit it, and I swear to God, I didn't wait to admit it on the podcast to have like a gimmicky thing. I just waited.
But buy our T-shirts.
Yeah, but our T-shirts with me rolling my head back on them. But I did wait to do it here because I was like, oh man, if you pull her aside at work, it's going to become this whole thing like, can I talk to you? And then everybody else sees you do that. It's just save it for later. It'll be fun, and it's a good thing. It's
and
good
also,
exercise between friends.
We never get to talk about stuff like that, but in that room, we talk about shit so much, and it's really like, it's hard to discuss ideas for hours at a time, and that's all we fucking do. We argue logic, we argue jokes, we argue these things, and it never ends. And like, There is that thing where it's like, I get that, where you just want to be like, I just want this, I want what I want, and I just want the discussion to be over. That's very understandable and human. Or just kind of like, can we just be done with talking about this?
Well, this is when it's the hardest, and this is what happened in that moment. When you know where another person is going with what they're saying, and all you want to do is just go, I get it. Like, let's just not, I got you. But you can't do that.
Right.
And in that moment, I failed, and my head shot back because my head was going, I know what you're saying.
But that's kind of the beauty of you is you are not, I prefer a head roll and an honest this over like, no, that's cool. That's the worst thing in the world is when people aren't upfront with
Exactly.
like, it's because it's understandable.
Exactly. I can't stand, oh, that's cool. I can't stand the placaters. I can't stand the diplomats. I can't stand the people that roll over. I just can't.
And also,
stand it.
not only can I not stand
it.
that, I really enjoy going back and forth with you. It's super fucking fun because you think you know where I'm going. Oftentimes, I'm like, I'm excited to be like, hey, guess what, motherfucker? You have no idea where I'm going right now. That's the fun of it, you know?
I know. And that's, I will openly admit right now, that's a flaw I have, is thinking I know exactly where somebody's going all the time.
That's all comics.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is all of us.
Because it's the observational thing where it's like, I watch this, I see it, I know what people do, I know the patterns of speaking.
Right.
I know what, you know.
But this is exactly why, I know I keep saying this, but this is exactly why everything you're saying about us going back and forth, why I knew this would be such a good discussion. I was excited when you picked the Afterlife. I let the guests, I don't always mention this on the show, but I let the guests pick the topic. I wrote a list up of topics. And I keep expanding. But I send that to the guests because now I'm sending you a list of stuff I'm interested in. So if you pick one of those things that you're interested in, now we're both interested in the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for somebody to pick the Afterlife. Everybody kept skipping it. Everybody. We've done 6 fucking episodes.
Person after person.
I remember Pat Walsh was disappointed because I sent him the list and I go, what do you want to talk about? And he goes, Joe, let's go with that sweet old easy lob-in of dating. And I go, we can. I already did that with Kurt Braunohler, and he was like a little upset. He was like, God damn it.
Well, that was my first pick too.
Yeah, I know.
Because everybody wants to talk about that.
It's a great one. There's a reason why you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I was so excited somebody finally picked this one. And this is also the first ever episode where we have, it's our longest episode ever.
Yeah.
And this is our first nighttime episode. And this is the first time we ever have questions from listeners, which is exciting. I told people today, here's what we're talking about. Tweet me some questions. And they responded. Can't do everybody, obviously. I'll just try to go through these quickly. Would you rather go to a stereotypical cloud floor heaven with your identity intact or a heaven where there's no identity/ego? I think that's such a great question. Oh, that comes from @thehumanlee on Twitter. Follow that person if you like. I think that's a great question because I think ego is such a big part of it. It's like I was saying in the intro. Let's say we do lead many separate lives over different lifetimes and reincarnation and whatever. And they talked about this in True Detective. You don't remember any of them, really.
Right.
You might have glimpses or flashes, but you don't remember any of them. And that's really a hell in and of itself. You don't get to carry forward the consciousness. No, ego all the way. I want to be in the cloud floor heaven where everybody looks exactly the way I want them to look. I want every girl I've had sex with to look her peak up there so I can hit on all of them all over again. You know, I want everybody to be healthy.
It's heaven. You don't have to hit on them.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Well, their heaven, it means I don't hit on them. And my heaven is I get to have sex.
It's they're coming to you. They're floating on their cloud over to you automatically.
Yeah.
But there's also the thing of, I was actually thinking about this today because I feel like I would pick that cloud heaven too, also because I'm also very fascinated with the idea of getting to stand on clouds. Which I know is really stupid, but that's kind of part of the selling point where I'm like, I'd love to just stand around up there in clouds. That would be so much fun.
Looks like it would feel good on your feet. Looks like you could eat it.
It'd probably taste good. It'd be kind of sugary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they say that the idea of self and ego is the hell that we live in. If we could let go of self and ego, that's kind of like a Buddhist thing, or I don't know. I don't know where I got that, what website I got that from, but being able to let go of this identity of here's my story, this is where I'm from, these are the things that have happened to me. If you can let that go, that is the release. That release enables that freedom, and it's the way or the path. I understand.
No, I got you. Well, @thehumanlee, to answer your question, I guess, ultimately, cloud floor.
Cloud floor, for sure.
Second place would be the defending your life scenario, where you at least remember the life you graduated forward from. That would be good too.
And tons of spaghetti.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of that whole movie. It made me laugh so hard.
I love that movie.
Everybody
so much.
eating a shit ton of spaghetti.
Yeah. Come over to my hotel and we can paint it. It's so funny, that movie.
It's so good.
Okay, this comes from at Christoph Rees, again on Twitter. At
Christopher Reeve?
It says Christoph Rees.
Okay.
No, not Reeve. Rees with a Z. This is a very personal one for me. I think he's kind of being funny, but it's actually a good question. Do adopted people meet their dead adopted family or dead biological family in the afterlife?
Yes, for sure.
I think he's saying either or. Which is it? They say you meet your family. You're going to meet your adopted family. You're going to meet your blood family.
The people that raised you, probably.
I agree. People
Right?
that raised me. Easy.
If it's your blood family, it's just some people that it would look like people standing around at an Olive Garden or whatever, like
Yes.
where you'd have no connection.
Yeah.
It's like, did you read The Lovely Bones, that book about the teenage girl that gets murdered?
No.
Because it's first person. She dies. And I remember reading it. It's a really good read. It's fast read or whatever. But there's this part when she first gets to, it's like heaven, but it's not really heaven. It's almost like a little bit of purgatory. And she's just standing there. And then her childhood dog comes up that had died when she was younger.
Cool.
And then it's all these dogs come up. And it was that thing of like, I just thinking about when I was reading it, thinking about the idea that our first dog, Pepsi, would be the first person to greet me in heaven. Mm-hmm. I was like crying so hard and losing my mind because it's about the connection. To me, that's what heaven would be, is you coming back to your life and yourself and all the things that were great in this life,
right,
in this consciousness.
I just had a vision of a guy coming up to me in heaven and being like, Joe, I'm your biological father, Pepsi. That's a weird name.
Well, I'm a stripper.
Egypt.
I'm a male stripper from Egypt.
Here's one. At the Veal Chop. I think if that's a Safe Men reference, you're awesome. Even if it's just a Veal Chop reference, I don't mind. We already answered this. Have you ever induced a panic attack thinking about infinity nothing? Yeah,
yes.
We kind of already covered that. Yes. At the Rock Dory with a Y. Do you believe in that multi-dimensional shit? Like the afterlife is in another dimension? We talked about that. Neither of us really believe in anything. We just hope for certain things, and I think we both agree that that's a possibility. Yeah,
and the multi-dimensional thing makes me nauseous. I can't.
Flashcards.
I feel like I'm not smart enough. It immediately makes me feel bad.
Flashcards.
Flashcards.
Here's one from E. Jesus, how do you say this?
E. Cummings.
At Datalemac, Datelemaque. According to a 1907 study, average human body drops 21 grams moments after death. Could this be a soul? Egg on my face right now. I meant to research that to see whatever the scientific explanation was, and I forgot.
I don't know if there is a scientific explanation. I remember seeing that on a kind of like mysteries and all that shit that I watch on like the History Channel. And the guy that did that research, I don't think there was, he researched it where like there are all the possibilities of the things it could have been. And I don't think that they ever found it. They think they really thought something was the 21 grams leaving the body when the body dies. They were like, we don't know what this could be.
21 grams is called 21 grams?
Yeah, that's what that's about.
I must have realized that when I watched it and I didn't remember. But wait a minute. There has to be since then some scientist saying, no, it's probably this. I mean, there has to be.
From what I remember from the
years old, that study.
Mysteries at the Museum, whatever stupid show I was watching, they have not.
One of my favorite tales from the crypt stars Hank Azaria, and it's about a scientist played by, I can't remember the actor's name. He's such a great actor. He was in a movie called The Front Page, again with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. He's in a bunch of stuff. If you saw him, you'd know him.
Yeah.
But he plays a scientist who discovers the soul. He finds the soul in the human body, and he's trying to capture it before it burns out. And Hank Azaria and Travis Tritt play these night watchmen that he hires to like help him steal bodies from graves. And Hank Azaria is like, yeah, we're gonna take this schmuck's money, like Plays one of those guys. He basically plays a
Mo?
Simpsons character.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
it's kind of funny. Like he plays like sort of a Simpsons character. Anyway, it's about this the soul being a physical thing.
I believe in that. I don't know why. I like it.
I don't know. I believe in the idea of a soul. I really do, because there's a thing that humans have, obviously, that no other being does. No other living being on the planet truly has. But so maybe that's the soul.
Maybe.
I don't know. At least in an abstract sense, it is. This is from @LloydDobler89.
I know Lloyd Dobler 89.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I've
is he a
never
comic?
met
Do we know
him. I've never met them in real life, but they're very. I talk to them on Twitter a lot. He's very nice, or she. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
But
nice. If your consciousness continues after death, wouldn't that just be considered hell? I don't understand that question. I mean, if he's saying that you're just...
I think he's saying it in that way of if you were in a void, a space of nothingness, but you were still conscious. That's what I think it is.
like just literally trapped in blackness,
Yeah.
but aware.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it'd be hell. I mean, if there's other people there to talk to, it wouldn't be so bad, right?
No, I think, but like by definition, there isn't.
No, yes.
It's the void.
Then that would be hell. That's
It's like the
terrible.
end of 2001 that I fucking hate so much, where he's just like dying in that room.
Wait, I never
forever.
saw. I swear to God, I never saw 2001.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Don't tell me the end.
All
But
right.
I know something bad
Kinda
happens
famous.
in the computer as a dick.
Yeah.
Something. But I hear you.
Yeah.
The Void.
Check it out. It's a pretty good movie.
I know. I have the DVD. I don't know why I've never watched it. I tried to watch it once in college when I was high.
Oh,
And I was
no.
like, it's just too fucking slow, the goddamn classical music. Let's go.
Come on, people.
Yeah. At Craig Moore, at Craig Moore 02, at Craig Moore 02, he asks, do you think you'll go to heaven? If so, will you ask God why he cursed you with the shoulders of a jellyfish?
Oh, no. Craig Moore,
That's
you need to sit down and you need to knock it off.
That's an ongoing joke from way back to when I first started doing. Well, way back, the no shoulders thing has been a thing that's followed me around since I went to New York to do comedy.
Okay.
It started with Patrice O'Neill and Keith Robinson saying to me, I just love when things tie into other things. Patrice O'Neill, one of the most brilliant comic minds of all time. I miss him so fucking terribly. Somebody I really would consider a friend over the years in this business, and he's gone. He was absolutely at the forefront of my mind when I was writing that theory about why do the good leave us too soon?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? And he's somebody that I literally could believe being tapped and saying, you're higher than that. Your perception's too high for here.
Yeah.
And that's why you get so frustrated with all of this. And that's why you're so combative with so many people, because this isn't right for you. Come up here and we'll do this other thing. Just such a brilliant guy and so fucking funny. And had his hang-ups and flaws, but I think that's a result of not clicking with the surroundings. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, he started the no shoulders thing. There were so many not bad jokes, meaning they weren't funny. They were hilarious. They were bad because they hurt feelings.
That's
What
comedy
were some
for
of
you.
them? You guys at home can't see this, but there you go. When your dad tries to have a man-to-man talk with you and he grabs you by the shoulder, does his hand just do that and slide down your whole body? Keith Robinson would be like, you look like you still got the hanger from your shirt in your shirt, stupid. Stand up straight. It was just ruthless. But anyway, I love that. In fact, my IMDb bio, I haven't changed it because I didn't put it there. It's like a straight up bio that somebody wrote, and it has all my credits and stuff. And then the last line is, Joe achieved all of these things despite tragically being born without shoulders. And I was like, I'm not going to change it.
It's so funny because I never thought that about you until right now when you're saying it. And then
God
it's like,
damn it.
wow, yeah.
Oh, is it still that obvious?
I think it's
I've been
because you're
working
wearing
out.
that woman's V-neck shirt. That's probably
Why
what
is
it
this
is.
a woman's V-neck shirt?
I don't know. I don't think men
Too
should
deep
wear
a V?
V-neck shirts. It's that American Apparel
I love
weirdness.
the V-neck. I don't go crew neck. Crew neck accentuates my
the shoulder
out of
problem.
shapeness. Yeah.
Oh.
I think my shoulders are getting better, though, because I've been doing shoulder exercises. Are they not? Is it? They're just still...
Joe, I never noticed this before. This is classic, like, a comic finding a way in. Like, this morning when Pete told me he doesn't have an impression of me yet, I almost wept with relief, because it's like, okay, then I don't have some overhanging, hideous, outstanding thing that you could just be like, here's Kilgariff. This is what, I mean, you probably could, but he doesn't
I got
have
nothing
an impression.
either. Nothing.
He goes, except for that you're always trying to guess what I'm going to say before I say it. Which is like, that's true.
Well, I'll add getting shoulders to the list of things I need to achieve quickly before I die.
You can get shoulder implants.
Oh, God. I'm not going to do that.
He's so weird.
I'm going to just keep doing the curls.
Just
the shoulder curls.
You know what? Keep throwing your head back when I talk in the room. That'll do it.
That's a good exercise.
Yeah.
Neck and shoulder
A big
exercise.
fat neck.
And lastly, this is an email from a guy named DJ Hardesty. DJ, if you're on Twitter, I don't know, try to find him somehow. And this is actually the first response when I said send me some questions. What do you think about the theory that we're all just the same person living in different lives? For example, at one point you were the homeless man watching the rich, snooty businessman walk to work every day, wishing you could be him. Then at another point, you were that same businessman looking down at the homeless man thinking, God, what a fuck up. I don't know. I guess that speaks to the idea of multiple realities and sort of the dimensional thing, the multidimensional thing. I don't know if it's as much an afterlife question as it is more a parallel reality type question. I think if I'm understanding it correctly, like, over here you're the homeless man, 2 ticks that way you're the rich guy. Right, like the sliding doors thing, if you made that decision or whatever. The first thing I thought of with that is I've been both in this life. You know what I mean? I've been the person that gives the creepy kid that's sitting on the sidewalk $20, and I've been the creepy kid sitting on the sidewalk. Like, I think there's part of that is that kind of like, I think that this life has so much potential and so much potential for good and bad. Right. There's so many directions you could go, and there's so many ways you can come back from whatever that direction was that you went. Sure. I think I don't know, maybe that was too not of that question. I hate multiple universes. Every time we talked about it with True Detective, I hated it. I hate the idea of it. It just is, it's overwhelming. I have so much shit I'm not doing now. Piles of mail I'm not opening. The idea that there's another reality where it's 3 decisions away and it's slightly different is just like nauseating to me. Well, you don't have to think about it because the achieving you is in the other dimension doing everything. And you're over here. Fucking it up! Just hanging out. You're hanging acting like I don't have to do shit. You're over here riffing on stage, half-assing it. There's another Kilgariff over there with like 10-minute essays that she's reeling out. No, I mean, she's a bore. Look, I think it's a great place for us to end because, I don't think it matters whether you're ultimately doing enough in this life because you never will think you're doing enough. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're not doing enough because you'll still give yourself way too much credit. That's what we all do. Yep. At the end of the day, all you can do is just try to do the most with the time you have and just try to be in the moment. Enjoy this. We don't know what the fuck is coming. We don't know what the fuck is around the corner. So be in the moment. Have fun with your friends. Sit down, have discussions like this. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a know-it-all because that kills discussion and that makes people not want to be around you. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. People wanted to be around you. You had some fun and you had a good life. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Thank you. Plug whatever you want. I just think people should eat more fruit. Okay. Very good. Your album, buy it. Buy it iTunes or Special Thing Records. It's called Live at the Bootleg. It's good. It's a good time. And what's your Twitter? Karen Kilgariff. Okay, great. Look her up, follow her, go see the shows if you haven't yet. She's amazing. Thank you for being here. We'll see you guys. No. We'll hear you guys. Nope. No way. Neither. You'll hear us next time on Down with Joe DeRosa. Thanks. Bye.